there's something around where are we starting from? That's the key. Are we starting from our heads? Are we initiating something from our habits? Where are we initiating from? If we're initiating from that potential and we're initiating from the deep feminine waters of Pisces, then we're aligned with both our feminine and our masculine energies. It's not an either or. This is a huge invitation for us.
This podcast episode is brought to you by The Inner Circle, your place to learn astrology in community with the masters and transform your life in the process.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. You have joined a worldwide astrological conversation that's happening here at Astrology Hub every week. We're here on the weekly weather to get a read from a professional astrologer on the cosmic energies for the week, so that we can use that information to navigate the tides in our own lives. If you're new here, welcome. You may want to go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you are aware when there's additional conversations happening here and that you can continue to join us in the future. And for those of you who tune in regularly, I just want to thank you. Your support, your participation, your likes and your shares, your comments, all of it. It all enables us to get the wisdom of astrology out to more and more people. So for this, we are very grateful. Thank you for that. All right. Today, we're going to be talking about the astrology of February 20th to February 26th with Astrologer Connect Astrologer and previous Inner Circle guide, Andrea Michelle Kennedy. She has been here on our platform many times. We love Andrea Michelle. I've had the pleasure of getting a personal reading from Andrea in the past, and she is so insightful and just so perceptive and bringing in an element of astrology that not all astrologers cover. The best way for me to describe it is some of the more feminine or yin archetypes that are sometimes left out of the astrological conversation. Andrea Michelle is amazing at identifying those in your chart and helping you to cultivate those aspects of yourself. So just a little bit about Andrea Michelle. She has been practicing since 2012. She focuses on the poetry of mythology and helping her clients find their true soul purpose. She has been a presenter for celebrated astrology conferences such as the Sky Astrology Conference and for the Cosmic Intelligence Agency. She, like I said, has been an Inner Circle teacher here with us at Astrology Hub. She's also providing readings on our new reading platform, Astrologer Connect. All right, Andrea, welcome. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Amanda. It's always special to be here with you. Thank you.
All right, so as we're looking ahead at the week, what would you say is the overarching theme for this week, and why are you saying that?
Okay. The overarching theme, I would say, is the solitary one. Primarily, it has to do with where the lunation began on the 19th of February. At 1 Pisces, very close to the fixed star Fomalhaut, which is one of the royal stars. And it is also called the solitary one because it is in a part of the sky that there aren't a lot of bright stars at all. And the ancient astrologers had 4 stars that they felt upheld the heavens: Aldebaran, Antares, Fomalhaut, and Regulus. All 3 of them, the prior ones, well, Aldebaran, Regulus, and Antares were close to the ecliptic. Fomalhaut is the only one that is not close to the ecliptic. So it was labeled the solitary one, but they had to have something in that corner of the sky, the south portion of the sky. And so they chose a star in the mouth of the fish, which is underneath the water bear constellation and is receiving the energies of the water that's being poured out from the urn of the celestial water bear. So there's also a theme of, in being solitary, really what I'm getting at there is the theme of receiving and how little we actually stay put to receive versus always constantly going out and getting and doing and trying to make things happen. That is actually it can be a lonely thing when we start to practice listening to our inner voice, because it oftentimes will tell us things that are different from what we're used to, from what other people are telling us, from what we're accustomed to doing or hearing or listening for. So it can feel very solitary when we really, really start to focus on our inner environment, our inner world as the source of our intelligence, the source of what motivates us, what our ethos is, what our values are. And the astrology of this week, I feel, supports the potential of a new relationship with honoring the inner voice, honoring the relationship with oneself first, even if that means distancing oneself from what our habits are, what others are doing, what we believe in our head we should be doing.
Wow. That's a lot there. So solitary, so that we can be in a receptive place to receive the information that is truly our inner wisdom.
Yes.
And I mean, it's interesting why we have so much resistance to that and why we automatically think that's going to mean sacrificing things that matter to us.
Right.
Because it is more that we will then be able to get in even deeper alignment, which does with what does actually bring us that deep sense of fulfillment and purpose and truth. But there's something, and I guess it's the ego, like wanting to say, no, don't do that because you're going to have to give up all these things that you love or all these people that you love. And it's like, no, actually, if there's true love there, then you won't actually. You'll only deepen in those relationships or deepen in those things in your life.
Very good. Exactly. We're afraid to let go of what we know. That's about as simple as it gets. Yes.
All right. And the reason you're saying this is because, can you say the name of that star again?
Fomalhaut.
Fomalhaut.
I know.
Fomalhaut is the solitary star
in the mouth of the fish, which is underneath the water bear constellation. So it's in south latitude from the ecliptic.
Okay. And but you were saying the four royal stars? Is that
Yes.
That's what it was, right?
It's
okay.
one of the four royal stars. And it's
one of the four royal stars.
Yeah, it's at right now, I think it's at 3 or 4 of degrees of Pisces tropically.
Okay. And it's the only one, it's the one that's further from the ecliptic.
Yes. The other 3 are close, if not on the ecliptic, but they had to have something in that area of the sky, but there are no bright stars there. So the brightest one they could find was this one, the mouth of the fish. But again, I love it that it's receiving the water from the water bear constellation. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
And the water from the water bear to you is what?
The water of life, the water of renewal, the water of our source, the water of, some people do a one-on-one equation of the constellations with the signs. I don't. So some people would call it Aquarius, the sign of the constellation of Aquarius. But I don't think there is a one-to-one correlation, especially since the precession, the tropical zodiac doesn't superimpose on the constellations like they once did. So I call it the water bear. It's the celestial water bear. It's the image of the man pouring out of the urn, the waters of life, the waters of renewal.
Okay, so let's dive into each day of the week. Great. So we can get a little bit more context and also more ideas of how we can apply this into our life this week.
Yes, awesome. Okay. So again, on Monday, we've just had a new moon on Sunday, the 19th. So the week begins technically on Sunday with the new moon at 1 Pisces, and it just left Saturn in Aquarius, right? It's also close to Fomalhaut, which I mentioned, which is a derivation of the Arabic word mouth of the fish, okay? We start off the week with Venus entering Aries as well. At the lunation, at the new moon, she was at 29 degrees of Pisces, and that's her exalted sign is Pisces, but she's at the end degree, which always has a tension to it, because again, there's an idea of an attachment to something. Like, I don't want to let go because I don't know what's coming. I have the wisdom of the entire sign behind me that I know, and I'm confident that I know, I might not know as much as I think I do. I don't know what's next. And especially the idea of the waters, like Venus being at the very end of Pisces at the lunation, is the only thing missing is the receiving of the waters in me, that they exist already and are always available to be sourced from within me, right? So she's also just left Neptune. So while the new moon is inviting us to ignite new potentials into manifestation, we may be unconsciously limiting the pool of potential based on prior attachments to what's possible. So when Venus enters Aries on Monday, she's an evening star. She's been an evening star since December of last year. And she's continuing to get higher and brighter as an evening star, as the sun sets, okay? So our feminine nature as an evening star, any planet as an evening star, is practicing responding, manifesting, partnering, and delegating, while maintaining a strong inner connection, Venus and Aries, with our personal agency and direct felt experience. So we're literally in this place, the beginning of the week, of Venus practicing how to be in a position as an evening star where it's about us, them. It's a unifying sort of place, versus a morning star where it's more I, me, mine, not in a bad way, but in a more discovering one's agency. This is now Venus in the tropical sign of Aries, practicing how to maintain a relationship with oneself very directly as we are engaging with others. And this is what the solitary thing can feel like. It can be very difficult to maintain that inner connection with oneself without feeling like we're compromising a relationship. But it's really more the energetic imprints or safeties that we've cultivated of relating, rather than true relating from a place of I am me, you are you, where's the third space? I also noted that on Monday, because as you mentioned, I work with some of the main asteroid goddesses, they're all in cardinal signs at this point. So there's a very strong initiatory energy of the feminine. The feminine can have her own agency and still maintain her inner connection to her source, which again, it often feels when we're really, anybody who's done some deep inner work knows that it can feel very lonely at times, because we're constantly getting the pull, the seduction of how we're habituated to relating with others, how it should feel energetically comfortable, energetically, aligned or harmonious. And sometimes there's an inner conflict that happens within ourselves when we're denying what's actually true for us inside to have a relationship keep working on the outside in a particular way. We've all felt that, right? That inner kind of like, this doesn't feel right, but this is what I know. It happens so quickly, right?
Part of the challenge I've found is when I don't yet have the language to explain why it doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. So there can be, a dynamic that's not quite, it's feeling off, but I don't know at that point how to communicate it yet. Yeah. So there's getting to the point of the inner agency of it just doesn't feel right. I don't actually know why yet. I can't actually language it yet, but there's something that's off.
Yes.
It's definitely something I'm working on personally, but I know that's one of the places where I get stuck. So I'll sort of stay in something that might not feel totally right longer than I should because I don't have the words yet.
Exactly. That's so beautiful. And we don't stay and receive the discomfort and what's underneath the discomfort. We're so quick to try to find a correlation of why.
Yes.
And then we have the opportunity to get underneath why we're uncomfortable or why we feel the compulsion to explain ourselves. And we don't even understand really what it is ourselves yet. Yeah.
Well, and that goes back again to this solitary one, because in order to find that or to sort of mind that part of ourselves, we need to be quiet and listen and receive and be alone usually in order to get to that place.
Well, and it's hard because we're living as people and we're not out meditating in a cave. We're living in a world where we're constantly in relationships somehow. But how do we find the discipline, Saturn, at the beginning of the lunation, to carry us through and know in our hearts when it's time to step away and be solitary and when it's time to come back and have it both. Tuesday, we have the moon applying to a conjunction with Neptune and then forming a sextile to Pluto. This is on the 21st. So oftentimes the moon in Pisces can be sensitive to collective dross. Like it can pick up everything in its environment, right? It's water, it's mutable. So it just kind of like is picking up, and we're very, Pisces is very sensitive, especially Pisces moon, and especially hitting Neptune. So we may feel the tension and intensity of Pluto at the anorectic degree of Capricorn. Again, we have this 29th degree, which is called the anorectic degree, right? That holds the whole weight of the sign energy that it's come from. And we have this, it's Pluto. So it's this deep, deep inner tension of the past that we're all sensitive to, this holding on to the past. So we might feel it more on this day because of the nature of just the moon in Pisces and in a sextile to Pluto. The sextile is an easeful aspect. It's an aspect of harmony. It's often associated with Venus. If you had to make a correlation between an aspect and a planet, it has this Venusian kind of quality to it, right? It's a harmonious aspect. So this is a good day to counter any negativity that we might be receiving, especially through media. It's a good day to turn off any media that is hyping up the negativity, that's hyping up the fear, that you might be more sensitive to really, really taking that information and making it personal, and it heightens the fear. And then Wednesday, the 22nd. So this is one I know that some of your viewers have been asking about, the Mercury trine Mars, right? So it's been building since the beginning of the week. They've been in orb together. But today is the day that Mercury in Aquarius applies to a trine with Mars in Gemini. Interestingly enough, there's a lot around this. It's so fascinating. And I'll do my best not to geek out on the sky astrology part too much, but that's what I am. Mars is at the same degree of his opposition with the sun back in December on Wednesday, the 22nd. So that's huge. Mars was in the middle of his retrograde period at that time. So, and he was retrograde. So, and we've all been through some hard lessons with Mars in Gemini. When he was retrograding, there was a period of time when he stationed direct January 12th, where he literally traversed the same sky, not just by longitude, meaning the way we see it on the chart, but by latitude as well. Meaning it's like Mars is like plowing, if you can imagine, plowing the same trough over and over again. So there's an emphasis there. So we might have been feeling for the past couple of weeks, deja vu all over again, right? Where some of the same conflicts have happened, or some of the same arguments, or some of the same mind chatter, mental chatter has been showing up again. But the evolutionary purpose of this is, now that Mars is an evening star, again, in that space of like being with others, it's not just about me, bringing more consciousness to how we do our Mars, because Mars is often very much what we're choosing unconsciously. Mars in Aries, it's what we're default choosing, especially in our charts, right? And so to bring more conscious awareness lovingly, especially with the trine with Mercury here, to our thoughts, not to take them personally, to recognize that there's a lot of different ways, Aquarius, that we can be thinking about things, not so fixed. It's like an energy with the trine of opening things up. Again, using a planet as a metaphor, oftentimes the trine is associated with Jupiter. So there's this wisdom aspect. What wisdom have we gained since Mars was at this degree back in December when he was retrograde, and we were in the thick of this Mars retrograde? What have we learned now, and what can we share that we've alchemized in a way that we don't have to convince somebody, we don't have to try to prove our point, but how actually embodied are we in what we've learned that we can share our wisdom freely, trine, and receive, be receptive to what Mercury is sharing with us now, based on the wisdom that Mercury has gained from being through Capricorn for part of Mars's retrograde, Mercury being the dispositor of Mars and Gemini, and having traversed and gone over Pluto. There's something around Mercury being the psychopomp here to bring down, to transduce the lessons of Pluto into its more immediate expression of Mars. Pluto can be seen as the higher expression of Mars, higher not being better, just being a higher octave. Mars being the more immediate expression of the desire of Pluto. So with Mercury's prior retrograde through Capricorn, how is Mercury disseminating in a way that's more palatable for our immediacy of our Mars, the lessons of Pluto?
Wow.
It's a lot, I know. Hard.
Okay, so referencing back to December,
yeah,
some of the things that we've become aware of in our own mental thought patterns,
yes,
and like sort of habitual thought patterns,
yes,
and recognizing the distillation of the Plutonian energy there.
yeah.
I mean, so what does that mean? I mean, how do we, like, how will that show up? Like, what are the kinds of things that might show up for us?
Well, oftentimes Capricorn is history. So where have we been acting upon historical desires that may not be our own?
Yeah.
Or historical ways of thinking that are just impulse, just automatic for us, that really are not sourced in something deeper than our history. Again, it's sort of this, with Venus doing what she's doing in the idea of receptivity. Are we available to being mature in our expression of our Mars, to be more aligned with and recognize that it's not just what we're doing in the world is not just for ourselves, and to have the alignment of Mars with Pluto, the higher calling of Mars, to dredge beneath our history, Pluto and Capricorn, to get to a new availability to act upon what we've received through Gemini, and to speak that clearly. So this is like a time now to like practice speaking any wisdom, any of the challenges that we've had from the prior Mercury retrograde. Disseminate wisdom when it's available for us, but to recognize and also make sure that we're not just, that it's how much of it is actually in us versus it just sounds good.
Interesting. So how much of it is actually embodied? How much of it is actually ours?
Yes.
I'm also keep hearing the word should, like paying attention to the things that we feel like we should do because they've always been done, or because they're somehow passed down as an expectation of us. But should we actually do them? I mean, like giving that sense to pause, like I do this because I think I should, but is this actually aligned with who I am right now?
Right on. That can be so Saturn and Capricorn. I should. It's the right thing to do. It's also, it can be a Libra thing, but basically it's yes. And there is some questions that I know that you all sent to me before about things that people might want to know about how to work with the energy specifically for this week.
Yeah.
So Mercury and Mars are both personal planets, right? They're in a trine. So there can be more conversation. It could be constructive criticism rather than harsh criticism, right? Again, the trine energy is more fluid. It opens dialogue. It's more spacious. So constructive criticism, as opposed to just straight up criticism, is one way it can manifest, either through our choice in how to engage with others or what we receive from others. And again, because they're personal planets, we can also pay attention to our inner dialogue. Has our inner dialogue changed? Are we still shoulding ourselves, like you said? Or do we have more space to allow for something new to arise, to have a new relationship with our minds that's more open and more spacious and not insistent on it being a certain way or insistent upon certain conversations going a particular way?
Okay. All right. And so criticism in this week, I mean, what I'm hearing too is that we may have the opportunity to offer constructive criticism, just being aware of criticism that is intended to, it's even hard to use the word criticism when it's in criticism to me, just like pretty much is not a positive.
Right.
There's feedback, there's input, but criticism is usually pretty biting.
Right. And constructive criticism is kind of like a left-handed compliment kind of thing.
Right.
It's the same kind of energy. So,
And just being mindful of doing it in a way that is with the intention to uplift or improve or find solutions, and also making sure it's invited, right? That's the other piece.
Exactly. And if it's not reciprocated, are we okay with that? Because this is the mature aspect of, if we're really being generous with our wisdom, then there's no expectation that people are going to take it. We literally are just offering it from our hearts. And if they don't take it, we're not offended. If we are offended, then we might have some agenda behind it. It's not going to be so clean.
Interesting. Love that. So Monday and Wednesday both of them feel pretty big. Yeah.
Exactly. So Thursday, we have a concentrated immediacy while the moon moves through Aries. Okay. So the moon has left Pisces and is now going through Aries. And there's so many planets and asteroids there. We have Venus, Vesta, Jupiter, Chiron, Juno, and Eris. And the moon also, during her travels there, squares Pallas in Cancer and opposes Ceres in Libra. So again, these cardinal feminine energies, there's an initiating quality of the feminine that's different. It's just a different.
What do you mean by that?
Okay. So one of the things that I'm getting juiced about, Amanda, that's too much to talk about here, but I'll just introduce is what excites me is the fact that the asteroid goddesses, Ceres, Juno, anything past Mars in the asteroid belt, they have an agency that Venus herself doesn't have. In other words, because Venus is so close to the sun and between the sun and us, she can only get as far as about 48 degrees from the sun, right? Which is a semi-square. Whereas the asteroid goddesses, because they're outer planets, they can form an opposition with the sun. So they have a particular agency that Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, the big boys out there have, but they have it as well. So they're bridges between the feminine and the masculine, and the personal and the social, the societal. But there's a level of agency that the feminine is bringing now, that it's not an either or thing anymore, where the masculine is simply action and the feminine is simply receptivity. There's more of a balance and an interweaving of the two that's coming online.
So when you say initiatory energy of the feminine, and you say the feminine has more agency, you're referring to basically a feminine approach to maybe, for example, getting things done or starting a project or getting something off the ground. But from the very beginning, the energy or essence of it has more of the feminine qualities versus the way that we would think about it maybe in the past, where kind of anything starting or initiating would, by virtue of the fact that it's starting or initiating, would be more masculine in essence.
Well, yes, there's something around where are we starting from? That's the key. Are we starting from our heads? Are we initiating something from our habits? Are we initiating something from our upper chakras, but we're not connected to our lower chakras? Where are we initiating from? If we're initiating from that potential, that place of potential, Pisces, this is in the Pisces lunation, and we're initiating from the deep feminine waters of Pisces, then we're aligned with both our feminine and our masculine energies. It's not an either or. This is a huge invitation for us.
Yes.
Yeah. Not just.
Wow. And you're saying that because those asteroid goddesses that do carry a lot of the archetypally feminine energy in astrology, that they're further away from the sun and they can have an opposition to the sun. Explain that a little bit more.
They can hold a tension that Venus doesn't hold.
Mm.
They can meet the sun. They can go where the boys have gone.
Mm.
But they're not excluding the boys. It's just they're stepping up to the plate of, we have equal footing here. And I'm not talking just about, women getting equal pay or whatever. I'm not talking about women and men. I'm talking about the masculine and feminine principles in all of us. Like, we're just up leveling. So much is in preparation for this Venus and Leo cycle that's coming. But we have to be able to receive the dynamism and the creative juice that we have within us before we can actually start to own what Venus and Leo will manifest and be for us. The receptivity, the agency to choose to stay, to be solitary when necessary, coming back to that theme.
Well, and it reminds me too, you're saying, where is it initiated from? And if it's initiated from that more solitary inner agent receptivity, then it is already initiated from more of the unseen realm, more of that divine nature. And then that's the place from which we take action.
Yes, which is very challenging to do. It's not impossible, but it takes commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah. I had this quote from The Little Prince. Everybody probably knows this one, but it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye.
Mm.
Chiron in Aries, to me, there's so much about Chiron in Aries, but one of the things, Aries rules the head and the eyes. So the wounding to our eyes, to our sight. Chiron in Aries, one of the grace of beauty of Chiron in Aries is to discover, where are we looking rather than seeing? Because looking has this, I'm moving out, it's an outward directed action, whereas seeing has a more receptivity to it. So we need to find a balance. Before we can really look at something, we have to be able to know how to see it first. And there's an internal seeing that has to happen to really, really see rightly with the heart what is invisible, seeing from that place of that depth.
It seems like there's an equivalent with receiving, because or listening, because we can hear or we can actually listen and receive, which requires just a whole different level of presence. Okay.
Totally. So I'll just go on to Friday. So I'm going to go into Ceres a little bit here. And again, I know not a lot of people work with Ceres. She's coming on so strong, so strong. Venus is opposing Ceres, who is retrograde. And Venus is at 5 Aries. Ceres retrograde is at 5 Libra. One of the initiatory qualities of Ceres, and I use the word initiation and initiatory very, very specifically for Ceres, she initiates us through loss. And you had mentioned something early on in this, Amanda, about it's like we think that we're losing something when we pull away, but it's really our attachments. We're really just starting to get honest when we pull away or pull our energy back inwardly. We're getting honest with where we're attached to a relationship, right? She initiates us into where we are still falsely attached, especially in Libra, to relationships. So where may we be ready to cut our losses when relationships are no longer working? Are we relating from a more superficial level rather than from a more heart-attuned one, right? So especially since the moon on this day is also going to conjunct the North Node and square Black Moon Lilith, which is retrograde in Leo. It's asking us to meet aspects of our feminine shadow. So where has it kind of been a relationship where there's an implied, we have to do it together or we can't do it, or I can't do it? Where is that? Ceres can be really super codependency. Like, in other words, where am I making you responsible for something I don't want to be responsible for? And when you don't take responsibility, where am I resentful? And the more that we can address things like this, and when we work with the energies this week, the way I'm describing them, Amanda, it's really more of how we set the intention for the day within ourselves. It's less about what we can expect from the outside coming in, although it always invariably there's an outside experience that will reflect something internally. But if we orient at the beginning of the day to where is this living in me and where can I develop more of a loving honesty around this, or a loving understanding or appreciation of this, I'm already in a much better position than just simply waiting for something to happen. Where are we merely performing a role in relationships or within ourselves is a good thing to look at on this day. And again, Ceres is a very, very powerful facet of feminine wisdom, intelligence emerging in this time. And any of you who see me on that podcast we did on Eris a year or so ago knows I'm a big fan of Eris, and Ceres is huge in the Eris discovery chart. Ceres is with Eris's moon. And it feels to me that the energies of Eris are stepped down more through Ceres. Ceres is sort of an intermediary for the very powerful energies of Eris. They're coming online as the nodes later on this year move into Aries and Libra. Saturday, the day begins with Moon in Taurus, conjuncting Uranus, and then squaring Mercury later on. So we can observe where we get attached to visions or insights for their own sake, yet may not add up to anything tangible in our lives. Again, this sort of theme of getting some really, really great downloads or great ideas, if they're not practical and they're not really applicable, it doesn't mean we should discard them right away. It just means let them sit, receive them. Again, receiving and letting them gestate. We don't give ourselves a lot of time to receive and gestate. And something else that Ceres is a big component of and is cycles, understanding the nation of cycles, that we have to lay fallow and receive, and then there's a time to act. But we're such a culture that's all about acting and doing all the time. Where do we give ourselves the opportunity to receive and let the seeds fall and percolate and gestate? And then Sunday, the 26th, the moon will still be in Taurus and squares Saturn, and shortly thereafter trines Pluto before it enters Gemini on its way to the first quarter moon. So the last lunation in Aquarius was close to Pluto in Capricorn. This Pisces lunation is close to Saturn in Aquarius. So we've got these heavy hitters that are still kind of an undercurrent in both of these lunations, right? So they're reminders that whatever new things we initiate, we can't outrun the past. What we initiate will only have legs once we've reconciled with the past. However much we have, we don't have to reconcile with all of it, but to make an honest assessment of where am I just wanting to get something new or have something exciting happen, and I'm really just running away from something, or there's something I really don't want to face. So this configuration of moon squaring Saturn and trining Pluto can also invite us to look at any unconscious attachments that we have to where we are shutting ourselves down prematurely. So where are we holding unconscious beliefs that we're not good enough, we're not smart, creative, fill in the blank enough, where we're looking for the other shoe to drop, where we should ourselves, as you said, where we cut off our own creative flow because we start to get scared, because we're starting to get out of our comfort zone. And then the inner voices that come in and say, oh, you can't do this. Are you kidding me? Who do you think you are? That's something that on Saturday is really, really important to look out for, because if we really have genuine excitement in our hearts, that will lead us. That will show us the way, regardless of the naysayers in our own minds, regardless of anybody else that we share our excitement with who doesn't get it.
And by virtue of the fact that it is invisible, if we are really receiving insights and visions, and if we're really in that receptive place, then it's natural that people won't see it, that they won't get it the way that we do, because in that moment, you're the one receiving the information the way you're receiving it.
Yes.
And so it's by virtue of the fact that it is coming from the unseen, and it's not in reality yet, that people won't get it. And I think just sort of counting on that is a good idea. So essentially, if there was one thing that we could really focus on this week, it's like you said, starting the day in that place of relationship to self, relationship to self's own voice and inner agency, and from that place going out into the world. And then as much as possible, reconnecting with that, throughout the day and reconnecting with that inner wisdom. And if things feel off, taking the time and space to kind of regroup with oneself. And often that requires that solitary moment. And I know as a mother of two young girls, lots of driving, running the company and all the different things that we're doing, that it can be really hard to get that moment. And so I'm having to it feels like steal moments throughout the day. Like sometimes it is just in the drive to pick them up from school, or it is in the 10 minutes before I start my day, just taking a moment to be quiet before I embark upon, all the million things that need to be done. And how different the day is when I allow myself those times. And so that sounds like it just needs to be a top of mind priority to listen. And that's the other thing. We aren't really taught in our culture how to receive, how to actually take information in and allow it to really permeate into us and live there for a while before we even feel like we have to take action on it. There's so many things with just the concept of receiving that it feels like we have so much to learn. And I'll speak for myself. It's not a thing that was highly cultivated in me growing up. And I've had to really focus on cultivating it as an aspect of myself, which I continue to focus on it. But yeah, I mean, what's your experience with that?
It's because what you say, our whole culture is really kind of like on this trajectory to keep doing and not stopping. It is very challenging. It doesn't feel comfortable. We're not accustomed to it. It feels like an affront emotionally. This is my experience too. Like I move very, very fast most of the time. So for me to really still, I find I've had to work, but just keep showing up, even if I don't feel like it on a given day, just keep showing up, slowing down. Okay, I don't want to slow down today. Tomorrow, new day. And what I love what you were just sharing about that is stealing those moments away. That's true creativity. It really is. Within the limitations of life, to find ways to make things happen anyway, that is true creative power. That is personal agency in service to creative power.
The other thing I was thinking as you were speaking, Andrea, is how we can practice receiving. So notice the times when maybe someone's even paying you a compliment or acknowledging something about you. And if there's discomfort or if the natural reaction is to sort of like explain it away or, and not really take it in, not really acknowledge the spirit or the essence of what the person is offering to you. Yeah. I've been talking to my daughters about this quite a bit because I've just noticed, they're a teenager and preteen. And sometimes, someone will say something to them that they kind of like, oh, okay, thanks. And sort of like toss aside. It's like, wait, stop for a second. Receive what that person just said. Receive the spirit of what that person just offered to you. And it seems like if we can practice that in our relationships, that then we would be even better at doing that with ourselves and with our inner guidance and with the information that we can receive from that internal place. Even sometimes describe it like, wow, thank you for that. That made me feel blank. That was such an amazing observation that you made of me, whatever it is. And I cherish that.
Yeah.
Again, that's an external reflection of our ability to receive with the wisdom and intelligence that's available to us all the time from source.
Yes. And depending on our own unique wiring, we're all wired to receive differently. Right. So it might be challenging for us to acknowledge verbally what we just received from somebody. It might take a while. So we might shut down initially because we don't know how to receive it. But if we give ourselves some time, we might discover a few hours later, oh, now I have the space to receive what was just said. And then I can go back to that person and say, wow, that really touched me. Thank you so much. So to discover our own receiving qualities, which is unique to us and our personal wiring through our charts, that's how we develop a relationship with receiving as it's wired through and as us, our
I
wisdom.
love that. Yes, yes. Okay, I love this. Thank you, Andrea, Michelle. You are amazing. I want to ask you a question about your experience so far on the Astrologer Connect platform. As an astrologer providing readings, how does it feel to be engaging with this community and offering your wisdom through the platform?
It is one of the most, if not the most supportive environments for people of all levels of creativity, all levels of understanding of astrology, to heartfully bring themselves and risk learning from others, risk sharing what they're learning, risk what they're not understanding. It's such a beautiful, supportive space. And the way that they receive the guides is just, it's literally like getting a lay put over and over again. It's just such a beautiful community. I love it. And the Astrologer Connect platform, I've met some amazing, truly grateful and fun people through the platform. Yeah.
What's the biggest question that people are coming to you with right now?
There isn't a specific question. Everybody has a different ask, but because I work with the soul's evolution, a lot of people want to know, am I doing what I should be doing? Which in and of itself is like, it's so hard to get away from the shoulds in our culture and what we do to ourselves. So one of the things that I do is I help people put down gently the shoulds, recognizing that they are doing themselves perfectly in any moment. And there's still more room to become more intimate with what I'm doing, maybe why I'm doing it, so that I have other choices. And that is what I do, no matter who comes to me, no matter what questions. It's always, where are we situated now? And what does that do for you when you sit with where you're at, and it potentiates the move into something greater, bigger, deeper, more, better, best.
Beautiful, beautiful. And like I said in the beginning, I've loved how you've helped me become aware of these, the more feminine archetypes within me, especially Eris and, some of the other asteroid goddesses, which it's a unique specialty, and it really adds another dimension and flavor to your astrology chart to understand where these archetypes are showing up for you, what they're saying to you, what they're saying about you, what aspects of them you can bring into your life more consciously. Mm-hmm. And I love learning about these different aspects of ourselves, because then you can call upon the energetic essence of them when you need it. When you need different capacities within yourself to meet life. Yes. We have all this available to us, and often we limit ourselves to what is obvious and what we know. Yeah. And again, by expanding the astrological chart and the astrological conversation, there's more and more aspects of yourself that you can sort of bring online, and integrate into who you are.
Exactly. And I don't just pick new asteroids just because they sound cool. I wait and see what is activated in me and really coming alive. And then I use that as my cauldron of investigation. Yeah.
That's really obvious in the astrology that you embody, and you've had a deep conversation and communion with that energy, so you can speak about it in a way that's not from, oh, I read this in a book, or this is, my understanding of the energy. It's truly, this is lived experience of this energy, and offering that to the person that you're in the reading with.
To whatever availability I have so far. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. I wanted to actually just read one testimonial about your readings. This came in through the survey that we send after people have a reading on the platform. It says, my reading by Andrea Michelle was one of the most profound experiences of my life. So much of what I learned from her insights about my natal chart resonated with where I find myself now, and I see more clearly how I can move forward in my life to grow, know, and meet the call of my soul's great desire. I am still processing this experience, but I feel so full of gratitude, readiness, and love for this journey, and for the grace of Andrea Michelle's presence and gift of insight in this reading. Yeah, receive that, Andrea Michelle.
Receive it. Yeah. Wow. That is, I just show up and do what I love, what's in my heart to share. And it's a gift to share it with people.
Thank you. Well, we're lucky to have you on the platform. If anybody's interested in having a reading with Andrea Michelle, she is available on the platform. You can go to astrologyhub.com/astrologerconnect, find Andrea Michelle, look at her calendar, book something that works for you, and have an amazing experience with Andrea Michelle as a guide, especially if you have questions about your soul's evolution, if you have questions about how these different goddess archetypes are showing up in your chart. These are great questions to bring to Andrea Michelle. So I want to thank you for your guidance here this week. Thank you for helping us have some real juicy things to hold on to as we're navigating the energies. And just thank you for being a part of our community, Andrea Michelle. We're so grateful to have you.
Always, always fun and a pleasure. Thanks, Amanda. Really.
All right. And thanks to all of you for being here, for making astrology a part of your life. Cannot wait to connect with you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
Did you know there's a whole universe that you can unlock with so-called minor aspects? Most astrologers don't even use them, but Master Astrologer Rick Levine calls them harmonic aspects, saying they're key to revealing the deeper, metaphysical dimension of a birth chart, including the creative, mystical, and unseen parts of ourselves and others. And if you want a taste of how powerful they can be, just listen to what he has to say about some of the subtiles in play during his February and March forecast.
There's one other thing that happens in February. By the 12th, Venus makes a septile. That's 1/7 of a circle to Pluto. Venus makes a septile to Uranus. Boom, boom. What are septiles? They're otherworldly. They're supernatural. Dane Rudger said they were fated. Things come out and things come through that were somehow in other realms. And like Uranus, it's like lightning striking. And I think the combination of Mercury going into Uranus's modern sign of Aquarius and all these septiles will awaken us to the idea that we don't see everything that we think we do. Of course, it's not lost on me that this is the first week of Foundations Level 3 course. And it's just such an overwhelming septile message that we get from the universe. I really think that there's going to be a bit of a wake up in mid-February.
If you're ready to uncover these powerful unseen aspects in your chart, join us for Astrology Foundations Level 3 with Master Astrologer Rick Levine at astrologyhub.com/foundations3.